Now we are going to see a vector in R programming language. How to create a vector, what is vector, how to create a vector, and how to manipulate the vector. So first of all, what is the concept of vector? In R, vector is the most fundamental basic data structure, and it serves as a building block for nearly everything which we can do in R. It is a one-dimensional array which can hold an ordered collection of values. Why ordered collection? Because we can access those elements of vectors using index. And now we will see how we can create a vector. So you open the RStudio. In RStudio, we will open the console here because we are just seeing the commands to create the vector and manipulate the vector. We are using console window here rather than writing the R script. So on this console prompt, I will first create a simple vector of all numbers or numerical vector we can say. So V vector, I will just write here V1 is my first vector. V1 is equal to. Now we can create the vector using various ways. The first simple way is to use C function. So I use the C function. In C function, I will pass the values like it's a numerical vector. So I'm taking 10, 20, 30, 40. These are the 4 elements. And now print this vector. I can see there are 4 elements 10, 20, 30, and 40. Now, if I want to check what type of vector is this, I can use this command type of v1 and it will show me this is a double type. If you don't mention any other with this numbers 10, 20, 30, 40, if I'm not writing L as numerical data type is by default it takes double unless you specify L character along with the numbers. So now though there is no decimal point, it is showing it like double. Now, if I want to access individual element in this vector, I will just use square bracket and the index position. Index position start from first one and ends in the last. Now, first I will check the length of this vector. So use length function, pass vector v1 will give 4. 4 is the length of my vector. 4 number of elements are there in my vector. If I have to print the element 30 in this vector, I will use the index 3 in square bracket and I can access that element 30 which is at the third position. If I want to print certain range of elements in this vector, I can use the colon character. So V1 in square bracket 2:4, I can get the elements starting from 20, 30 and 40. So second index, third index and fourth index. So this is how I can access individual element in the vector, all the elements in the vector and specific range of the elements in the vector. So this is how we created a vector and accessed the elements and then found the length of the vector. Now we can create the vector using a different function, the sequence function. I will just use the sequence function. So v2 is the another vector. v2 is equal to sequence seq in bracket. It first take this element starts from suppose number 1 and I would like to have the last element in the vector as 3. So second is the last element which is to be specified. This is the interval. And the third element is, third parameter is the step value. So by, you specify it by is equal to 0. Suppose 5. So starting from number 1 till number 3, by a regular step of 0.5, it will generate the vector elements. So if I print V2, you can check out starting from 1.0, 1.5 is the next element, 2.0 is the next until T it has created. So this is another way when you want to create the vector which are at the regular, whose elements are at the regular interval. Using range operator also you can, not range, colon operator also you can create the vector. So V3 is the vector which I will create, like suppose 10 colon 50. I want to generate the vector starting from 10 reaching till 50. Print this vector V3. You can see 10, 11, 12. Starting from 10 by regular interval of 1, it has printed, it has generated the vector of till 50. So there are various ways to create the vector. And the another way where we can create the vector, for which we in advance we know what type of elements are there in the vector and what will be the length of the vector. So that vector function we are using for that. So V4 is the fourth vector I'm creating using vector function, where we have to specify the mode. As suppose I want to create a new logical vector. So I will write here logical, and mode is equal to logical, and I'll write here length is equal to 4. Just print 4, V4. So whatever values, it will take randomly false, 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 4 values, right? So if I specify character, if I specify numerical, these are the default values which are just initialization of vector, which are used just for initialization of vector. So today we have seen 4 ways of creating the vector using C function, using colon operator, using sequence function, and using vector operation. I hope you understood how to create the vector using different ways. We'll see the manipulation of vectors in the next lecture.